Hello, this is Neo the Silent, and today we're going to be talking about Pikasprey's video about the shiny Poliwhirl that is locked forever. If you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend that you watch the video first. I'm sure he wouldn't mind the extra view, and it's a really well put together video. However, while most of his videos are put together quite well and free of mistakes, as my title may suggest, he did make an error in that video, 2 to be specific. And these 2 errors open the door for that Poliwhirl to get out of Cerulean City and make some friends. Let's start with the premise. We're starting with a shiny Poliwhirl with set stats already determined, and we can't escape Cerulean thanks to Poliwhirl's ironically self-destructive moveset. However, despite all the damage Poliwhirl inflicts upon itself, there's something that was forgotten by Pikasprey, which we'll touch upon in a moment. For a reminder, in this video, with the Poliwhirl he showed at level 44, you have exactly 113 HP, which means that when Pale's completely exhausted, it'll only have 1 HP to work with. That's not enough to KO something and survive, since at this point, your only damaging move would be Struggle, and you can't pay the tax for it. This leaves you unable to get any EXP, and as a result, you can't progress anymore. At this point, you're looking at the roadblock known as Gary or Blue, with no option other than to lose a battle with them, or to go into the wild and lose a battle again. Fortunately, we have another option. In the grass in that route, we can find a variety of Pokemon, including Rattata. In this route, we can find them at level 12. This is significant as at level 12, they have a chance to have exactly 32 HP, depending on how their HP IV is. This is significant as it means that if we use Hail, that after 16 turns of being damaged by it, that Rattata will have been knocked out from the Hail, as 32 perfectly divides from 16 into 2, making the 16th turn be lethal instead of the 17th. Your Poliwhirl, on the other hand, will have 1 HP on that turn, but it doesn't matter as you'll have gotten your EXP from that kill. This means that you can get EXP and level up. It just takes a little more time though, since you need to have 16 turns of perfect RNG of Rattata, never landing an attack once, and this is without mentioning that you need to find the correct Rattata, as an incorrect Rattata could waste your time for 16 turns only to live. Thankfully, it knows Tackle and Tail Whip at this level, so you can rely on either Tackle missing, or Rattata simply using Tail Whip and praying that it never uses Quick Attack on you. Fortunately, you do not need to do this method forever. Once you've leveled up, you'll get more HP so you can go back to struggling your way through just like you had done previously for the previous levels. You'll get more HP, and life will be happy again. You won't need the perfect rat. Not only that, but Sparrow at level 12, Ekans at level 12, Sandshrew at level 10, and Mankey at level 12 all have 32 HP, and they all have moves that don't do damage, so if you don't feel like using Rattata, you can use those instead. Furthermore, Poliwhirl isn't obtainable in the game at this point, and as Pikasprey noted, will have been traded, so we'll get some bonus EXP for every kill with that bonus. With that in mind, you'll have quite a few options for getting your level up, and with every perfect RNG kill, you get a fair amount of EXP. If it's a Rattata, you get 146 EXP. If it's a Sparrow, you get 149. If you're playing on Fire Red, then the Ekans that you can encounter will give you 159. And if you're luckily enough to playing on Leaf Green, Sandshrew gives a whopping 199. Finally, if you're lucky enough to find Mankey, he gives 190. If you want to be relatively nice to your friend that you're already giving a very impossible task to, you could send them to Leaf Green, since Sandshrew gives the most EXP possible compared to Ekans. And likewise, if you wanted to make their lives a little harder, then put them in Fire Red. They both still offer EXP though at the available levels, so it gives us options for every available Pokemon, assuming that they're the correct level and have the correct HP IV. As shown in Pikasprey's video, you need 5600 EXP to level up to 45, so assuming that you're using the best EXP possible, it would still take you about 30 perfect battles on Fire Red, or 29 perfect battles on Leaf Green, assuming you use Sandshrew and Mankey respectively. It's certainly a real pain, and on average, it may take you longer since you may choose to use other Pokemon that have more options to miss damaging moves, like Sparrow, who have 2 options to do no damage guaranteed compared to the other options. Regardless, you'll reach level 45 after a lot of time and luck. And after that, you can simply continue to move on, if your new HP allows you to struggle and pay out, or you can go back to that normal method of just using the perfect 16 turn method if you're still at a bad HP spot. And you can continue to use your perfect RNG and keep going until you reach that important milestone of level 51. Level 51 is very significant, as Pikasprey was nice enough to give us an option to learn a damage move, Hydro Pump at level 51. If we learn it, we get out of Cerulean City trivially easy since we can just go to the town, find Gary, and introduce him to Hydro Pump. It won't be an issue, we defeat him, we get Pokeballs, we can catch a new Pokemon. Life is going to be nice and happy. And as we only have 3 moves, we can't choose to not learn Hydro Pump, so you're guaranteed to get it and you have no way to get rid of it. And as a result, this way the trap is completely over. We found a way out of the trap and we do not need to resort to the Jinx trade, though it'll take roughly about a decade of grinding, figuratively speaking. However, we can't exactly end things there as it would be a little bit early. After all, I did say that there were 2 errors that gave us a way out at the start, and I've only talked about one of them. Not only that, but I've been a little bit deceptive, I'm sorry to say. Let's give ourselves a new situation then that fully locks us out of Hydro Pump. After all, an easy fix for that solution is simply to level up Poliwhirl to level 52 on a different save, use the move deleter to remedy the situation, and then move it back to the first save. And thus, there's no more leveling up moves that can deal damage that Poliwhirl has access to. Not only that, but let's remember that we have a potential issue that we may be in the same HP range during a level up like Rattata, where 16 turns of Hail will kill us, where we're perfectly divisible by 16. With that scenario in mind, it may seem like we still have a really good chance of getting Softlock over the course of our grind to find a way out. However, that's not the case. As I said a moment ago, I was being a bit deceptive, and we shouldn't fault Pikasprey for this one, as it's a little bit complicated, but he was actually mistaken about a small factor of the equation. 16 turns of Hail does not necessarily mean 16 turns of damage from Hail. Let's remember that in this game, we got introduced to Groudon and Kyogre, and all the fun that these weather abilities and weather effects would give us for the next few generations, up until Generation 6 changed how their abilities work. For example, in this game, Drought would give us unlimited turns of Sun until a new weather condition was introduced. Likewise, Drizzle would give us Rain for an unlimited amount of time until a new weather condition was introduced. And finally, Snow Warning, if it were in this game, would give us unlimited Hail until it was replaced. If Snow Warning was on Poliwhirl, we'd be well and truly stuck at this point. But thankfully, we've got Hail. Hail doesn't work like these abilities. It'll give us the weather that we want, but only for a set amount of turns. Hail gives us Hail for 5 turns, and it's been this way as long as it's been a move. Of course, with Icy Rock we could make it 8 turns, but this is Generation 3, not 4. And even if it was in this game, it's an optional item that we could immediately take off, sell, and buy a Pokeball. Thus, it's not worth discussing. However, with what Pikasprey showed in the video was that he would save before every battle, use Hail, and then run away. In this instance, it doesn't really matter if Hail lasts for forever, or for 2 turns, he'll always take Hail damage the turn he uses it. This is something that is rather smart in the idea that you're trying to make sure that you're using all of your moves so that you can get to struggle faster. But unfortunately, as a result, you're taking a lot more damage if you're not willing to gamble for it. There is a way to bypass the damage, thanks to Hail working for only 5 turns. Namely, you'll have to stay in that battle for exactly 5 turns. During the battle, we would need good luck in order to ensure that we are not damaged for 5 turns in a row by whoever our opponent is. And as a result, at the end of the 5th turn from when we initially used Hail, instead of dealing damage to us, it'll simply fade away. And during that turn, even if we used Hail, it wouldn't refresh. So we're using 1 instance of Hail without actually taking the damage for it. As a result, instead of taking 16 turns of Hail damage and relying on Poliwhirl's HP being nice in order for us to get to our struggle threshold, now we've got 3 turns of no damage from Hail after running away and saving on every 5th turn of good RNG. Thus, we're saving 3 turns of hail damage for our Poliwhirl to use for struggle, which is going to be effectively around 3/16 of our HP by the time hail is fully used up. Furthermore, with the last hail used in another battle, we can immediately run away and not worry about doing perfect RNG on the 4th time we try to use this. Thus, at minimum, we will be stuck with 3/16 of our HP, which is going to be about 18%, and with the way bonus HP works when it comes down to rounding down and rounding up with hail damage, we'll also have the leftovers of what's left in case we have any extra. For example, why we would have 1 HP with Poliwhirl, that would be a bit of the leftovers because it wasn't a perfect division of 16, so we can have anywhere from 18% to 24% of our HP remaining after we use all of our hail and have nothing else remaining. Now, what does this all mean? It's actually really significant that we will at best have 24% and at worst 18% after every setup, because that means that Substitute and Belly Drum will do absolutely nothing even if we use hail first, as Substitute needs 25% and Belly Drum needs 50%, so the fact that we're at 24% means that after we've used up hail, we can immediately just go into a battle, use Belly Drum or Substitute, and immediately run away, and we will have no consequences for it so long as we're not damaged. And we can use this to get rid of all the HP on those moves until we're done. And for this instance, it doesn't really matter if we have Substitute or Belly Drum, they could be any non-damaging moves, because they effectively no longer have a condition. There's no use for them. Now, even with the worst case scenario where we'd have a perfect scenario where our HP is perfectly divisible by 16, we're guaranteed to have 3/16 of our HP left over no matter what, which means that we'll have some wiggle room for struggle, in which case we will never have an idea where we can't level up anymore. It's just that leveling up is going to take a significant amount of time, because if we're stuck in this situation where we have no more access to damaging moves, we do have to continue to level up for quite a period of time to get past Gary. With this being said, let's speed things up, and let's assume that you're sitting there for a very long time, grinding up your Poliwhirl, using up all 16 turns of hail, and then knocking out your opponent's wild Pokemon, so on and so forth, until you reach level 100. In this case, even at level 100 with no damaging moves, you still have a very good shot at beating Gary. Sure, you'd probably be better off to simply start a new save and grind up some wild shiny Poliwhirls and make a whole team of level 100s and go beat the game a few times. But in this case, we're saying that there is a chance to get past this even without a damaging move, so we need to get past our perfect problem named Gary. For this instance, we're going to assume that Poliwhirl has either 5 or 6 HPs and IVs in HP in order to figure out exactly how much HP we have. Based off of what Pikasprey's shown and the idea that he gave no HP EVs to Poliwhirl before he transferred onto the save, then we know exactly how much HP that we would roughly have. In this instance, with 3 turns of free Hail HP, as well as the leftovers, we're going to have about 50 HP to beat Gary. As you might have guessed, the videos I've shown so far have been from Smogon, because I'm not nearly patient enough to try and set these battle up in the actual game, and for what we're doing here, Smogon is perfect enough in accuracy for what we're showing. Regardless, what it can't do is start a battle with Pokemon not at full HP, not at stats, and not at moves. So, for this instance, I'm setting up the Pokemon to have the exact things we need to get to that point. We need Poliwhirl with Struggle, and we need Poliwhirl with 50 HP. Thus, I'm using Dusclops with Pressure to knock out the move very quickly, and then the second that Poliwhirl has no more HP, he's going to knock himself out. Furthermore, with the way that Dusclops is leveled up, as well as his moveset, I've given him Seismic Toss so he can get to 49 HP. It's very difficult to get to exactly 50 HP, but this just means that we're having a bit even more of a struggle with this battle. We're having 1 less HP than we should. And finally, once everything is reset and we're effectively going into this battle with 49 HP, no PP, now we can actually fight Gary in this simulation. Now, we may think that this battle is going to be a cakewalk. However, we do have some slight fears that Gary can do, namely his Rattata and Pidgeotto. They both have quick attack, and if they both used it and they both got lucky with a crit or just a high damage roll, there's a chance that we may die to struggle by the time we get to the last Pokemon. However, if we're getting to this point, I would hope that we had saved before the battle began, and thus we won't have an issue in case we just get unlucky. We just reset the battle. For this simulation, since we don't know exactly how much HP that he will have, I've assumed that in this instance, with us having 1 less HP than we should, that he has the worst case scenario, where every single one of his Pokemon at those levels will have the highest HP EVs possible for that level, and thus we're going to take a little bit more struggle damage. Struggle in Generation 3 is really, really nice in the idea that it's based off of how much we do rather than our own total HP. Thus, we're going to continue to go forward and struggle. It's going to be a little bit difficult, but even with the max HP stats, with Pidgeotto, Abra, Rattata, and Bulbasaur, with the assumption that Bulbasaur has the most HP, we would only take at most 48 points of struggle damage, and since we have 49 even in a worst case scenario, we're going to win the battle without an issue. And as a result, we're going to get money from this battle, and with money from the battle, we can go buy a Pokeball, we can save, and then we can keep throwing the Pokeball until we catch a Pokemon that can get us out of the situation. From here, we've won. We've gotten out of the Softlock, and we had nothing to do with the Jinx. We can either catch a new Pokemon and continue to go through the game until we can teach Poliwhirl an actual damaging move, such as Water Pulse, in which case the game's going to be a cakewalk from that point forward, or we can immediately trade Poliwhirl to a different save and never have anything to deal with this current save again. Regardless, we've gotten through from this Pokemon battle, from this Softlock, without needing to resort to Pikasprey's way out with the Jinx. It was a bit of an assumption to say that it was impossible to get out, and for the most part, it would have worked rather well if the weather worked in a little bit of a different way. If it worked every single turn and that it never ran out, then we would truly be stuck. But now, we've gotten out without a single problem. Once again, this would take a very significant amount of time, to the point where you could pretty much play through every Pokemon game, and you'd probably be able to make a full team of shiny Poliwhirls on every single game before you get out of the Softlock from the second method. Regardless, with what Pikasprey's shown, you only need to get to level 51 for Hydro Pump, and then you're out. So, it's going to be pretty nice. It's not nearly as bad as what it is, but I'd almost say that this is worse than what Pikasprey's shown. As with Pikasprey's video, we simply said that there's no way out other than trading it for Jinx. And if you know there's no way out, it's not going to feel so bad for trading away the Poliwhirl, as you were left with no choice. You know that. But if you know that you can technically get out, then it's going to feel a little bit worse to go for the Jinx method, to know that technically you would just need to get very lucky, but you can save the Poliwhirl, and that it will not go away. Thus, so ends this video. If you've enjoyed the video so far, I really hope that you can like and subscribe, and otherwise I'd really recommend checking out Pikasprey's video. He always puts out very, very quality content, and there's very rarely errors like this in this video. This is simply something that I had caught on, and I just wanted to make a video explaining that it wasn't a perfect Softlock. Regardless, I hope you have a wonderful day.